Hey Eliopa! So this is my face. As much as I've enjoyed making all the animations and effects in my previous videos, they were taking up a lot of time and I wanted to spend more time focusing on my game. Speaking of which, this. It's an anti-gravity racing trivia game in which you avoid obstacles, answer questions, avoid obstacles, answer questions, avoid... Well, you get the point. Anyway, it's a bit of a mashup between Wipeout and Duolingo, or if you're an Alpha Brain Giga Chad, between Anki and the 1999 Star Wars Episode 1 pod racing game. God, I loved that game as a kid. Anyway, I want to make something that's that fun, but that also teaches you things while you're playing. I think there's huge potential for video games in education that's currently being massively underutilized, and I would like to contribute to that space. In fact, alongside pod racing, I used to play a lot of maths games when I was a kid that were not only fun, but also actually helped me out in school quite a bit. So thanks, Mum, for that. But this is my first game, so I still have a lot to learn. Additionally, I'm currently in the last 6 months of my PhD. Dear God, please let it be the last 6 months. Meaning that I get to combine all the elements of having a full-time job, such as being constantly stressed about having any spare time, with all the perks of being basically an unemployed student, like not having any money. So I'm having to be extra careful with what little money and time I do have. Check out this nifty little tracker I made. However, I would like to release the game by the end of 2024, that's this year, apparently. So let's check out my current progress. This is what it looked like over a year ago. As you can see, it's basically just a little bean going about his day, and this is what it looks like now. As you may see, the main things that I've added are a procedurally generated tunnel that I spent way too much time on, some basic obstacles, a placeholder player ship I made in Blender, a main menu that I spent too much time on, and some more obstacles, more questions, answers, and even more obstacles, and a shatter effect when you get answers correct, which I spent too much time on. So all the basic elements are there, and I think this gives a fairly good glimpse of what the final product will look like. If you'd like to try out a demo, there's one on the Steam page now. But despite no longer looking like an intergalactic bean on some grey wedges, the game still has a long way to go. In fact, I was lucky enough to get my game critiqued during a recent Steam by Bite Me Games. I'm assuming if you're watching my video, then you've probably already heard of them, but if you haven't, I'd really recommend going out and checking out their channel. They often give out super useful advice, like the ones they give out during that stream. Their critique was pretty harsh, but I think absolutely fair, and probably made a few points that I just needed to hear. Let's go over the three main ones that we did. Number one.
I just hope there would have been more questions than just capitals.
So this is probably the easiest to address, and of course it's something I've been planning to improve for a while. The main problem I have is that I never made a game that stores such large amounts of data, and I don't have any money to buy storage space online on servers or anything. And additionally, I'd like my game to be fully playable offline. My current method of saving and loading questions is to have them all stored in a predefined list of structs, which is not very scalable, but who knows, maybe it'll be fine. Regardless, I need to make some changes to add additional types of questions to it, such as like maths. It's quite different from other things. But for now, I think it's fine, and I'll probably just update it if I need to in the future. Number two.
But yeah, definitely if I could press like shift to speed up, so if I know the answer, I don't have to wait the entire time.
Like in Tetris.
So this is something a few playtesters have brought up, is when you've got the answer already, you're locked in, ready to drive through. You know, it's a bit of a pain having to wait, so you might have some sort of acceleration option. This is something I have added a little placeholder to, and I think it works quite well. But yeah, I need to improve that and iron out a bit more, but that's definitely something on my to-do list. Number three.
The concept is great.
But the concept has zero financial...
Yeah, that's true.
Like, the only
People
way you
won't
would
pay
get
for
anything
this.
from this is if it's a mobile... This is something that you would play on your phone, because you would just have two buttons, like go left, go right.
Yes, this one was pretty brutal, but I think that makes sense. And deep down, I probably knew this already. Unfortunately, most of my research has been looking into making Steam, uploading a Steam page, uploading a game on Steam, marketing for Steam, and I've already paid the $100 fee to make the Steam page, so I will definitely be releasing my game on Steam. Also, this is my first real game, so if I'm not making any money, it doesn't really matter because I'm still gaining all the skills and I'm having fun doing it along the way. That said, it would be nice to make some of the money I've invested into this back. However, I think it's given me a bit more of a realistic opinion of this. Previously, I was thinking of pricing my game around $7 to $8, but I think that's probably not going to happen. It'll probably be around more like 2 or 3, I think, and maybe even free to play with perhaps some donation options. But I need to investigate and do a bit more research on that. But to be honest, again, I've enjoyed making it. I've made a tool that I think I will probably use when I'm trying to learn some new things, and if anyone else learns or plays from it, then that's just a big bonus really at the end of the day. And maybe if enough people play it, then I might look into releasing a mobile version as well that just has an ad pop up every now and then. However, with that said, I think I am overall in a fairly good position going forward. I have 6 areas I've highlighted that I want to improve before I release the game. I'm fairly comfortable I can handle all of them. The first is to revamp the player controls and spaceship. I found this asset pack online that not only has a few different models of ships, but also a few different parts that can use to customize them. I also need to add boosting and other special abilities, and also fix the dreadful UI. This goes hand in hand with my next point, progression system. So I think this would be a fairly simple something along the lines of the progression system in, say, Nova Drift, which is quite a fun little game. Based on how many points you get in each run, you will get experience, and each time you level up, you will unlock a new theme or part of your ship, or a new ability, or maybe more questions. I think this will also help players when they first play the game, not to be, sort of have analysis paralysis when they don't know what to collect. With all the different questions that we have, which ones to go for, which ones to include in their first run. And so just having a few options at the start, I think, can help with that. And then as they unlock more overall, they'll be familiar with the ones they already have, and they'll be a lot easier for them to deal with. But obviously, for the progression system to be in place, there needs to be things to unlock. So on top of the different ship parts, I also need to make more themes. These are themes for the obstacles. So far, I currently have 3 basic ones: Simulation, Crystal Cave, and Factory. But I also have plans to have several more, such as Candyland, Jungle, Lava Cave, Asteroids, a few others. Next, again, the big one, keeps coming back, more questions. I want to add different categories. I mentioned maths, language, history, different types of geography. I think those will topics that will match my game very well. They're all like trivia that can be sort of individually itemized, the sort of things that might come up on, say, a quiz show, or that you would like to learn during flashcards. I'd also like to sort these into predefined decks, so that you have, like, say, for maths it might be the times tables, or different language things that might be 100 most common nouns of whatever language, and then that can help you really track your progress and get different scores for each individual thing, which I think would be cool to try and get like a 100% accuracy with the decks or something like that. And speaking of stats, I'd like to definitely finish the main menu. Obviously I've already spent a lot of time in it, I'd like it to be good, and I'd like to have an area in the main menu that's specifically dedicated to looking at your stats and your progress. And then also on top of that, one for customizing your ship. And of course the UI needs to be updated, but also all these placeholder assets. Oh look, there's another bean over there, and all those things need to be polished off a little bit. Finally, the last one is probably the one I'm least comfortable with, but I think it's the one that most needs to be done, is localization. This is an educational game, so of course the more people that can play it, the better. But also there's no dialogue, there's not really a story to it, and the text is limited to the main menu and the questions and the answers. So I think this will be relatively easy to translate compared to other games, given that there's no like nuance or sarcasm or anything like that. A few languages I'm definitely going to be doing, like Italian, French, and German, which I'm fairly comfortable in myself. But then there's some I think that I need to do, like Chinese, Russian, which are ones I don't speak at all. Other than getting the actual translations themselves, I think this will be fairly easy to implement, although I'm sure there'll be something I run into along the way that will let me know just how naive I'm being about that. Anyway, that's all for now. If you've liked the video, liked what I've been working with, and would like to try out my game, again, there's a link to the Steam page in the description below where you can check out the demo, and also wishlist it if you'd like to be notified when the game comes out. Anyway, have fun learning. Hey door!